Okay, so the only real fallout from that brawl on the field, at least fallout that's going to have an impact on the field, is Mike Evans being suspended for one game. No suspensions coming for the Saints, which, I think if you're a rational human being who watched what unfolded, that's probably how it should have happened, I think, at least in terms of the further discipline. This has kind of been – Mike Evans has a history with Marshawn Lattimore. This isn't the first time he's been suspended for kind of blindsiding Marshawn Lattimore, so I think all that went into it. But I'm sure in a couple of days we'll probably be sharing some news about from that fracas. I'm sure Marshawn Lattimore is going to be hit with one. Maybe a couple others too, because it wasn't just those two that were involved in that. So. Something that's kind of worth watching the next couple days.
Should Lattimore have been ejected the way he was?
I mean, I don't think so. I get it. Like, I get the ejection. I get you don't want, if you're the NFL, you don't want your star players going after each other on the field, and that's exactly what happened. But at the same time, is he just supposed to sit there and take it? I don't know. I mean, in a perfect world, yeah, sure. You want him just to be like, hey, that guy hit me. I didn't do anything. But, the reality is these guys are competitors and they're in the heat of the moment. You don't want Marshawn Lattimore to go out there and retaliate. But, the guy just got blindsided, by another player. It's understandable why you would go after that. So, I don't think I have like a really, really strong opinion on that. I can get why the NFL did it. I think there probably should have been, at least another penalty thrown on Leonard Fournette for kind of instigating that whole thing. But I can at least understand a little bit of the ejection.
See, I might even take it a step farther than Fournette. I think there's an argument to be made that Tom Brady was the instigator in the whole thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm also not going to say Tom Brady shouldn't be trash talking. I mean, I think there's at some point there's got to be some sort of a line drawn. I think you could argue that Fournette should have deserved the penalty for shoving, but all Brady did in that instance was talk trash, and if that's where you draw the line, there's going to be a ton of penalties on guys, I get people don't like Tom Brady and they were pointing at that afterwards, but I don't think that rises to the level of getting a penalty. It's just my personal opinion on that, though.
I suppose of greater concern than any of this is the play of Jameis Winston at quarterback. It was not very good on Sunday. We were talking about this yesterday, and Borky pointed out, in 9 starts, Jameis has had 7 pretty good ones and 2 clunkers. Is there concern that there are going to continue to be clunkers, or kind of some of what he did on Sunday is correctable?
Well, yeah, I think you're a little bit concerned about it, specifically with the turnovers, just because that's something that has been a problem for him throughout his career, right? And not necessarily with the Saints. That was his first 3 interception game as a member of the Saints, but this has been an issue for him, just with ball security. He also had a fumble that his teammates recovered in that game, but that's been his one big weakness in his entire career. So yeah, I think you're a little concerned about it, but it's also we are only basing this on 2 weeks right now in this season with these playmakers around him. So I don't want to make any huge judgments yet, but it's something I'm going to be keeping an eye on for sure because the Saints have, I think, a very good roster. Their defense absolutely crushed Tampa in that game. They held a pretty good offense to 13 points, and 3 of those points came when they gave up a field goal on a short field after holding Tampa to a 3-and-out. So, I think they have the potential to be a very good team as long as they can be competent on offense, and you're not going to be competent on offense if you're turning the ball over. So, that absolutely has to get corrected. That can't be an issue that plagues him throughout the year. So, and two of those throws that were picked off were really, regrettable throws on his part. He talked about it today. He had underneath options. They were playing from behind. They couldn't really afford to be super aggressive with their play calling there. They're in a tight game, and both of those last two picks, they were in plus territory. And you're talking about a game that's like one possession. Those are decisions he can't make. So I'll be watching. I think it's too early to say that it's like a really big concern, but it's definitely something to be like keep your eye out on.
Maybe he should get LASIK again.
Well, he's not out there like squinting at everybody, so that's at least a plus, right?
Yeah. That was the miracle cure. So maybe he should do that again. Turning the page forward to the game this week. This is a gotta have it game, right? I mean, Carolina 0-2. There are obviously problems with that roster and with that franchise and Matt Rule, but they've been competitive, I guess, so far this season. There's not much margin for error here, though, for the Saints, is there?
No. I mean, this is, if the Saints are going to be who they think they are and who, a lot of us think they are, these are games they have to win. They can't start 1-2 in this division, I don't think. Even though it's on the road, and even though I think Carolina has some strength in some areas that have been kind of weaknesses for the Saints so far this year, specifically with their defensive front. I think they're very active and very athletic. I think they could give the Saints some problems there this week. All that taken into consideration, this is a game the Saints absolutely have to have, especially going on the road and facing what I think is still a pretty good Vikings team, even though they kind of had a clunker the other night against the Eagles. I don't think you want to be in a position where you're coming home from a long road trip, at 1-3 potentially. I think they got to go out and get a win in an important game here. This is one they really, really need to have, I think. It's one they should win.
Well, I was just going to say, you touched on it earlier, but I do want to circle back to it. I mean, the defense, holy cow. I mean, you want to talk about something to feel good about. I mean, that group, is it just fair to say nasty?
Yeah, I think they might be the best defense in the league, honestly. Really, they do have playmakers at all three levels. I know people were kind of upset about the pass rush, but yeah, I think it's really just because you didn't get a sack on Brady doesn't mean you're not impacting him. The guy completed like 54% of his passes for $190, and I went back and looked at it. 12 out of his 18 completions came within 6 yards of the line of scrimmage. Like, he was absolutely terrified of that pass rush. He's doing everything he could to get the ball out early. So, I'm not worried about that side of things at all. I think their linebackers are really, really good. Pete Werner's turning into a star right before our eyes. They might get Paulson Adebo back this week, and I think that will make what is already a pretty good secondary very, very good. Lonnie Taylor's out there, his first professional action of any kind. He didn't play at all in the preseason, and he gets a PBU against the Hall of Famer. I think they're really, really loaded. And I think some of the stuff that people are a little bit concerned about right now has been just a matter, like a factor of who they've gone up against. It wouldn't surprise me at all if they went out against Baker Mayfield this week, a guy who likes to extend plays in the pocket and hold on to the ball a long time, with a couple young offensive linemen on the field in front of them. It wouldn't surprise me if they had like 5-6 sacks on Sunday. I just think that's going to be, it's going to continue to be what keeps this team in it until they figure out what's going on offensively. They can't play this bad offensively all season. If they do, their season's not going to go anywhere. But I think you can pretty much guarantee they're going to be in just about every game they play because that defense is that good.
Look, great stuff as always. Thanks for your time this afternoon.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks.
All right, we'll talk soon. That's Luke Johnson from The Advocate, covers the Saints, joining us on the Farm Bureau guest line. Check out favorites.com and go with the home team